It was a cold Thursday morning when I opened my email, sipping my usual cup of coffee by the window. The sun was rising, casting soft golden streaks across my quiet little neighborhood in Ohio. My hands trembled slightly as I scrolled through the inbox, not because of age. I was 65 and still healthy enough, but because of the message waiting for me. It was from my daughter, Emily. The subject line read, "About the wedding." My heart raced with excitement. Finally, she was reaching out. Maybe she was sending me the invitation. Maybe she wanted to share her joy. Maybe she wanted me there beside her as every mother dreams. But when I clicked it open, the words pierced through me like a knife. "Mom, don't come to my wedding. Just watch through the live stream." Okay. For a long moment, I just stared at the screen. My coffee grew cold in my hand. My chest tightened and my eyes blurred with tears. I had imagined walking her down the aisle, hugging her, fixing her veil, whispering how proud I was. But all she wanted was for me to sit alone in my living room, staring at a computer screen, watching her new life begin without me. I whispered aloud to myself, "Why, Emily? Why would you do this to me?" I replayed her words over and over. No explanation, no reason, just a command. "Don't come. Watch from afar." Like I was some distant relative instead of her own mother. The anger started bubbling inside me. After all the sacrifices I made, working 2 jobs when her father left us, skipping meals so she could eat, staying up late to help her with school projects, cheering at every soccer game, this was my reward? To be shut out of the most important day of her life? I could almost hear her father's voice in my head. He had walked away from us when Emily was only 5. He never looked back. And now Emily was pushing me away too, like I was disposable, like I didn't matter. But deep down I knew my daughter. She wasn't cruel. Something was wrong. Someone must have pushed her into this decision. And I had an idea who. Her fiancé, Mark. I never trusted him. Too smooth with his words, always checking his phone, never meeting my eyes for too long. The last time we spoke, he made a snide comment about old people getting in the way. Emily had brushed it off, but I didn't. I had felt the venom behind his smile. I sat in that silence, my fingers trembling over the keyboard. I wanted to reply right away, to demand an explanation, to beg for the truth. But I stopped myself. No. If Emily didn't want me there, then I wouldn't go, at least not as her guest. I whispered to myself, I know what I have to do. I wasn't going to sit at home and watch my daughter's wedding through a cold screen. I was going to the wedding. Not to crash it, not to cause a scene, but to find out the truth. To see for myself what was happening to my daughter. And if Mark really was behind this, well, then he was about to learn what a mother's revenge looks like. I booked a small motel near the church where the wedding was supposed to take place. The email Emily had sent mentioned the livestream link, and from that I was able to figure out the venue. My hands shook as I typed in the reservation, half afraid someone might find out what I was planning. But at the same time, a strange calm came over me. The night before the wedding, I barely slept. I kept staring at the ceiling fan spinning above me, wondering how my daughter could cut me out of her life so easily. I thought of her as a little girl, the way she'd hold my hand when she was scared, the way she cried when I dropped her off on her first day of school. And now, on the biggest day of her life, she didn't even want me in the room. When morning came, I put on a simple navy blue dress I had bought months ago, back when I first heard about her engagement. I had imagined wearing it proudly, tears in my eyes as I watched her say her vows. Now it felt more like armor. I pulled my gray hair back into a neat bun, looked at myself in the mirror and whispered, "You're stronger than this. You've been through worse. You will get through today." I left early, wanting to get to the church before the ceremony started. As I drove through the streets, the autumn leaves scattered across the pavement, glowing orange and red in the sunlight. It should have been a beautiful, joyful day. Instead, my heart felt heavy, like a storm cloud was following me. When I reached the church, I didn't go through the main doors. I slipped in quietly through a side entrance, blending in with a group of vendors carrying flowers and trays of food. No one questioned me. It was almost too easy. Inside, the place was breathtaking. Rows of white roses lined the aisle, and golden sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows. Guests were already seated, chatting softly, their laughter echoing through the vaulted ceilings. I found a corner near the back where I wouldn't be noticed, hidden behind a tall arrangement of lilies. From there I had a perfect view of the altar. My heart pounded when I saw Emily. She looked radiant in her dress, her veil cascading down her shoulders, her eyes shining with unshed tears. She was beautiful, my baby girl. But when I looked closer, I saw something else. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. There was tension in her face, the kind only a mother could recognize. And then I saw him, Mark, standing at the altar in his sharp black tuxedo, flashing that smug grin I hated so much. He looked around the room like he owned it, like he was already the king of this new chapter. The ceremony began, and as the priest spoke, I kept my eyes on Emily. She fidgeted with her bouquet, her fingers twisting nervously around the stems. She glanced at Mark once and he gave her a look, sharp, warning, almost threatening. My blood boiled. That's when I knew. He was the reason she didn't want me there. He had forced her to push me away. Maybe he thought I'd interfere. Maybe he didn't want me asking questions. Maybe he just wanted her isolated. Whatever the reason, he had manipulated her into shutting me out. But he hadn't counted on me showing up anyway. The vows began. Mark went first, speaking in his smooth, rehearsed tone, making promises I knew he had no intention of keeping. The guests smiled, some even wiped their eyes. Then it was Emily's turn. She opened her mouth, but her voice shook. She faltered after the first sentence, her eyes darting nervously toward him. That's when I made my move. I stepped out from behind the flowers and walked slowly down the aisle. Heads turned, gasps filled the church. Emily's eyes widened, tears spilling down her cheeks. Mark's face twisted in anger. "Mom!" Emily whispered, her voice breaking. Mark hissed. "What the hell are you doing here?" I ignored him. My gaze was locked on my daughter. "Emily," I said softly, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "Do you really want this? Look me in the eyes and tell me this is what you want." The priest looked uncertain. The guests whispered furiously. Emily stood frozen, her bouquet trembling in her hands. Mark grabbed her arm roughly, trying to pull her back toward him. That was it, the proof I needed. The room fell silent as gasps echoed again. Everyone had seen it. I raised my voice, strong and clear. "This man doesn't love you, Emily. He's controlling you. He made you cut me out because he knew I'd see through him. But look around. Everyone can see it now." Emily's tears flowed freely. She dropped the bouquet, her hands shaking. "Mom, I didn't know what to do. He said if you came, he'd..." Her voice broke. She looked at Mark, who was now red with fury. "He said he'd cancel the wedding, and I'd lose everything." I stepped closer, holding out my hand to her. "You'd lose nothing, sweetheart. You have me. You've always had me. And you don't need him to start your life." The guests began murmuring in support. Someone shouted, "She's right." Another woman added, "We saw him grab her arm." The tide was turning. Mark tried to protest, but the priest raised his hand sharply. "Sir, your behavior is unacceptable. This ceremony cannot continue under these circumstances." The entire room seemed to collapse in chaos. Guests rising, some filming on their phones, others rushing to comfort Emily. She looked at me, her face pale but her eyes clearer than I'd seen in months. "Mom!" she whispered, stepping into my arms. I hugged her tightly, finally feeling the warmth of my daughter against me. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I thought I was protecting you, but all this time, you were the one protecting me." I stroked her hair, whispering, "It's okay, baby. I'm here now. You don't ever have to face him alone again." The church was chaos. Guests whispered, some shouted, and others rushed forward. Mark's face twisted with rage as he tried to pull Emily back, but two of his groomsmen quickly stepped in. Even they had seen enough. "Let go of her, man," one of them said firmly, prying his hand off her arm. Mark glared at him, then at me. His eyes burned with hatred. "This is your fault, old woman. You ruined everything." I didn't flinch. I had spent my life standing tall against storms. One more angry man wasn't going to scare me. I lifted my chin and replied, "No, Mark. I just saved my daughter." Emily clung to me, trembling. For the first time, she didn't look trapped. She looked free. The weight on her shoulders seemed to ease as she pressed her face against mine. The priest cleared his throat, trying to regain control. "This ceremony cannot continue. Until matters are resolved, it is best that everyone return home." Gasps, murmurs, disappointment spread through the crowd. Guests slowly began to file out, though many of them shot sympathetic looks toward Emily. A few women even stopped to squeeze her hand or pat her shoulder, whispering, "You're brave, and don't let him control you." Mark stormed toward the exit, his shoes clattering against the marble floor. Just before leaving, he turned back and spat. "You'll regret this, Emily. Both of you." But I knew it was over for him. His mask had slipped in front of everyone. When the doors shut behind him, silence hung in the air. Emily collapsed into the nearest pew, her hands covering her face. I sat beside her, holding her gently. "I'm so sorry, Mom," she whispered through sobs. "I didn't want to hurt you. He said you'd embarrass me, that you'd ruin the day. He convinced me you were against us. I was so stupid." I kissed her forehead softly. "No, sweetheart. You weren't stupid. You were in love. And sometimes love makes us blind. But you see the truth now, don't you?" She nodded, her tears soaking my dress. That night, back at my motel, Emily insisted on staying with me. She didn't want to be alone. She curled up beside me like she used to when she was a little girl afraid of thunderstorms. I stroked her hair and whispered, "You're safe now. I won't let anyone hurt you again." But I knew this wasn't the end. Mark wasn't the type to walk away quietly. He would try something: revenge, manipulation, maybe even worse. And I had to be ready. The next morning, Emily and I went to the police station. She filed a report about the way he had threatened her and grabbed her in front of witnesses. Several guests had already sent in videos from their phones, showing his behavior at the wedding. The officer assured us, "This will make it very difficult for him to contest anything. You've got strong evidence." Still, Emily looked scared. "What if he tries to come after me, Mom?" I squeezed her hand. "Then he'll have to go through me first." Over the next few weeks, Mark tried calling, texting, even sending flowers with apologetic notes. Emily ignored them all. When he showed up at her apartment one night, pounding on the door, she called the police immediately. He was arrested for harassment. I stood beside her through every hearing, every statement, every moment of doubt. She leaned on me the way she hadn't in years, and I realized something beautiful. I had my daughter back. One evening, weeks later, we sat on the porch of my little house, watching the sunset. Emily held a cup of tea, her face calmer than I'd seen in a long time. "You know, Mom," she said softly, "when I wrote that email telling you not to come, I cried the whole time. Deep down, I didn't want to push you away. I just didn't know how to fight him." Tears filled my eyes, but I smiled. "You don't ever have to fight alone, Emily. Not while I'm here." She reached over and squeezed my hand. "I'll never forget what you did for me. You saved me." I chuckled through my tears. That's what mothers do. Months passed and Emily grew stronger. She started focusing on herself again. Taking classes, reconnecting with old friends, rediscovering her independence. The sparkle in her eyes returned. And as for Mark, the last I heard, he had left town after losing his job and facing charges for harassment. He faded into the background like a bad dream. On Emily's birthday, she surprised me with something I never expected. She planned a small dinner at a cozy restaurant, inviting just a handful of close friends. At the end of the meal, she stood up, tapped her glass, and said, "I want to make a toast." Everyone quieted down. She looked at me, her eyes shining. "To my mother, the bravest, strongest woman I know. When I was about to make the biggest mistake of my life, she saved me. She showed me what real love looks like. Mom, I'm proud to be your daughter." I couldn't hold back my tears. The room erupted in applause and Emily hugged me tightly. At that moment, I realized something. I didn't need a fancy wedding invitation or a front row seat at some ceremony. What I needed, what I had, was my daughter's heart. And that was more valuable than anything else in the world. So yes, she had emailed me to stay away. She had told me to watch her wedding from a distance. But in the end, I knew what to do. I fought for her. I stood by her. And because of that, I didn't just get to witness her life, I got to be a part of it again. And that, to me, was the greatest victory of all.